at this bad boy. Look at the size of this thing. Gonna put the Steadicam on that, put the camera on. This is gonna be good. Let me get this thing off me. I'll be back. We're here to talk about the C70. Now, as obviously the thumbnail says, yeah, we're gonna be talking about this beast of a cinema camera and my thoughts on the overall picture of what Sony and Canon are actually doing right here. Let's get it. What's going on, my friends? It's Jason here. I hope you're all doing fantastic wherever you may be. Just a quick shout out to Richie Himes, W Canale, and Fire Island Mavic for your constant comments and support on my channel. Now, if you want a little bit of a shout out on my channel, just drop a comment and where you're from or whatever. And as always, connect with other people in the comments. Like, you can actually comment on someone else's comment. And all I ask is just be friendly. I want everything to be positive on my YouTube channel. No negative sort of business. But anyway. Canon, what the hell are you doing? First you release the R5, the R6, you force them to overheat, then Sony releases the A7S III and boom, that doesn't overheat, fully spec'd out for video. And then Canon's like, hey, we're gonna release the C70 just in time before the A7S III starts shipping. And then Sony's like, well, the FX6 is gonna be released soon too, so we better compete with the C70. So there's a lot of tag and chase with the whole Sony Canon thing going on at the moment. I mean, it's amazing for us consumers, right? It's pretty cool because there's so much competition, it's really high. We're all benefiting from all this new technology coming through. Although the one thing that sort of kind of gets me a little bit is that I don't know if Canon actually did this on purpose, because the C70 would have actually been in pre-production with the R5 and R6 at the same time. Like, it doesn't just pop out of thin air and we're like, hey, we've got a camera ready. It has to be planned for quite some time. Has Canon actually been planning this all along to give the consumers a taste of the R5 and R6 with awesome video specs, and then knowing it'll overheat, potentially forcing people to spend a little bit more on their cinema line? Like, it is possible. You got to think it is actually possible. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a business. Canon really wanted to up their game, and you know, they needed to bring in more customers, and at the end of the day, more money. It's all about that money. But anyway, nonetheless, the C70 surely is a beast of a camera. Like, it's set to be sold at around $5,499 US. Now, this is the first RF cinema camera that essentially looks like a DSLR. It's kind of like mixed with DSLR and a cinema camera. The great thing is that this shoots 4K at 120 with C-Log, dual pixel autofocus, and I think 180 at 2K, but I think that's a Super 16 crop, so there is a pretty significant crop on that. And the sensor is a Super 35mm sensor, so it is a crop sensor camera. Although Canon have actually decided to create a speed booster. Now, if you don't know what a speed booster is, essentially it draws in an extra stop of light. So let's say you have a f4 lens. It pretty much makes it an f2 lens. So it gives you an extra stop of light. It also gives you a full frame perspective. So if you have a 35mm crop sensor lens, essentially it'll be a 35mm full frame lens. So it gives you that wider field of view, just like a full frame camera. All you need to do is unscrew the little 4 screws at the front and put the adapter on. Boom, you've got pretty much a full frame cinema camera. The one thing that does worry some people is that it doesn't record internal RAW at the moment. It only does the XAVC format. Now, this is perfectly fine. I've used this format or codec before. It's quite nice to work with in post. But I did hear from a Canon ambassador in a video that he doesn't think that Canon will release a firmware to make it RAW internal. And Canon don't really do, for some weird reason, RAW output through HDMI. It's some strange reason. I don't know whether it's something to do with, I don't know. I really don't know. Anyway, if you know, comment below. But I know a lot of people that have the C200, C300, C500 don't even use RAW anyway. It really slows down their workflow. You have to have the computing power to actually process this. My friend Andrew Murphy, link will be in the description below if you want to check out Andrew Murphy. He's got a great YouTube channel. He's got the C200 Mark II and he's loving it, but I think he's put the order in for the C70. He did tell me, so he's going to really enjoy that. I'm going to have to do another collab with him with that when it actually arrives. But let's get back onto color. I've actually graded the red raw files in DaVinci Resolve, and man, that is an amazing codec. Playing with the raw file is just incredible. You can recover so much more detail, like in your highlights and your shadows, completely change the white balance. your exposure, everything. It's just incredible. But it is a much bigger file, and your computer has to actually be able to handle it. The C70 also has internal ND filters. Now, this is an incredible feature. I wish all cameras had this, but unfortunately they don't. I use them a lot on the Sony FS5 and FS7, and damn, they are convenient to have, especially when you actually have large cinema lenses like this big, and you don't have the drop-in filters in your matte box. It's just so convenient to be able to adjust your exposure through that. Even if you say you have, just your regular Canon lenses, if they have a different filter thrown on the front, you're able to use these inbuilt ND filters to actually change that. So that is a really, really cool feature. Now, one thing I would love to see from this is, and I'm very interested in, is the dynamic range. Dynamic range is massive for my personal shooting when it comes to cinematography. This claims 16 stops of dynamic range, which is insane. That's crazy. But in saying that, companies tend to try and say their cameras are much higher than they actually are. So we'll have to wait till, let's say, like DxOMark, a third-party company that actually tests out the sensor to see what the capabilities actually are. Or even Gerald Undone. I know he's probably going to get his hands on it and actually test it. Yeah, he definitely will test it. He did a really great job when it comes to the A7S III and testing all that. But I guess it wouldn't surprise me if it was up there with the C300 Mark III and the C500 Mark II when it comes to dynamic range. Now, the one thing that will help with a high dynamic range is what's called the DGO in camera. Now, this is the dual gain output. Essentially what the dual gain output is that it records at 2 ISO levels. So it gives you more information in the shadows and highlights, and it kind of stitches them together with the whole processing, and it's incredible. It's almost like HDR. It's crazy. But I believe that, I think if you get into higher frame rates, it doesn't really work as well because it requires high processing power. So I think you have to keep it at like 24 or 25 frames per second. But don't quote me on that. We'll have to see when someone gets their hands on it. Now, Canon have kept the dual SD card slots, which is very interesting. That is a very interesting move because it seems like they're trying to target a wider range of people. Now, since YouTubers and content creators are really spending big on the latest and greatest tech, they are just trying to, I guess, appeal to a wider demographic. That's a really smart move for Canon. Because the R5 is, X amount of $1,000. It's only a few extra, well, it's not only a few extra $1,000 more, but, if you are spending just that a little bit more on the C70, you're going to get those incredible video features, especially if you're not a hybrid shooter. The C70 is going to be an incredible option for you if you are a Canon user, because you can utilize all your awesome RF lenses. Even there's a whole bunch of adaptability when it comes to other lenses as well. But it's a really, really good idea to think about. Are you a videographer or are you a photographer? Or can you actually just get a cheap photography camera and utilize this as your main cinema camera? I mean, you can get, I'm most likely going to be keeping the A7 III because I have bought the A7S III, still waiting for that. And that's going to be my B cam. The A6400 will, I think, have to go. I still have the A6000, so a lot of us content creators, filmmakers will have backups. Not a lot of people have one camera because you always need a redundant camera, a backup camera, just in case. But anyway, guys, what do you guys think? Comment below. Is this something you might actually purchase? Is this something you're thinking about? Have you canceled your R5 order to get the C70, or have you canceled the A7S III to move over to Canon? Let me know in the comments below. Other than that, guys, my name's Jason Morris. I'm gonna go set up this chest rig, and there's gonna be a video about that. All right, I'll see you guys in the next one. Let's get it.